Hey guys, what's going on? This is Josh from Spotted Euros, and like the title says in this video, we're going to reflect on 2019. We started this channel February of this year. Now we're at over 1,000 subscribers, and that was the goal. So thank you very much to everyone who has watched and then everyone who has subscribed. In this video, I'm going to talk about the top 5 wins and top 5 fails. So we're going to start with the wins, start with the positive. We're going to end on the negative, so stay tuned to the end because I think the fails are more entertaining. Although it's maybe negative, it's kind of more interesting to talk about. So stay tuned to the end. This is going to be a good one. Number 5 on the win list is we bought and sold a Volkswagen Routan. Now this was a Routan nobody wanted. These auctions, I see them all the time, and for whatever reason this time I decided to buy it. We bought this Routan. It was a navy Routan with tan seats. There's a video recently about it, so I won't go too into detail on this one, but basically we bought the car. It had a cracked exhaust manifold. We replaced it, sent it back to the auction, and made $2,700 on that. So that was a win. Okay, number 4 on the win list. Now this is an interesting one, and it's really too bad that I don't have more footage on this. So at the beginning of this year, so last year, 2018, right at the end of the year, I bought a Volkswagen Jetta sport wagon, TDI, brown TDI with tan seats. Perfect color combination. It's always what I would prefer if I was looking for one myself, and I always wanted to try and kind of give one of these wagons a better look, kind of put my touch on it. Just nothing too crazy. The main thing we did is I got a set of used Audi 18-inch Audi wheels that looked really nice on it. I think they were off of like an A3 kind of thing. We put some H&R lowering springs on it, brand new struts and shocks in the back, brand new mounts, and the car itself didn't really need anything, so we basically lowered it, put some better wheels on it, and made it look a lot nicer. Okay, so we did all that work and we put it up for sale. Now unfortunately it didn't sell that fast. Now that's one of the things with doing those modifications. Like I do think I was getting quite a bit of traffic on the car. Most of the time people kind of just want the cheapest version or the lowest miles of what they're looking for, and if they want to do modifications they'll do it themselves. Now the interesting thing is this car has a cameo in a few videos. So a couple of the first videos I see, or even the picture on the top of our YouTube channel, there's a brown wagon. If anyone's ever wondered about that car, that's the car that I'm talking about. For number 3, number 3 is a good one. So earlier on in the history of the channel, I've thought about kind of making a recap video of this car because I really enjoyed it. We got a 2008 Volkswagen R32. Now since I was a kid, this was always one of my dream cars. I definitely prefer the 2004, but 2008 is definitely cool as well, and it's a lot cheaper. Well, we bought one at the auction. We got it for like $5,000, and it was in pretty rough shape. Now luckily mechanically it was in decent shape. But cosmetically this thing was hammered. It was one of the funnest videos that I think I've made on YouTube, just because of the transformation. Unfortunately it was the kind of beginning of the channel, so not a lot of people saw it, or even at this point have seen it. So if you are interested, go check those videos out because I think they're pretty fun. But we started with a $5,000 R32. It had these gross wheels on it. It had duct tape. It had vinyl, bullet holes, all this kind of stuff. I basically used a whole can of acetone to get all that stuff off, and we cleaned it up. And then we moved to the inside. The inside had they were using the cup holder as an ashtray. It was disgusting. The spare tire was painted like plastic purple. Who does that? So we cleaned all that up, made it look a lot nicer. The mats were in it, but they were in the back, so we put the mats in the right spot. We swapped the wheels out. I sold the old ones that were on the car, so we cleaned it up in like an afternoon. I made a couple of videos on it, and it basically was an afternoon working on the car. There was some drama as far as selling it, but you can go back. I'll link the video in the description below if you want to hear that story. But we ended up selling it and making 600 bucks on it. Okay, number two, this is actually one of our top videos, is we bought a $900 Volkswagen Mark IV GTI. Now, I don't even think I have to talk too much about this, because this was pretty recent that we had this car, and I made quite a few videos on it, but it was a lot of fun for me. We bought it for 900 bucks. There were some auction fees and stuff involved in that, and then I think at the end I ended up putting like $800 into it. So cheap car. I mean, it was in rough shape. It didn't idle, it wouldn't go into first gear. First thing we did is switched out the shifter bushings, and then just kind of worked our way through that. Now I ended up selling the car for 2,500 bucks, and ended up working pretty good. So if you're interested in any more information on that, there's plenty of videos on that Mark IV GTI. I love driving that car around. Okay, number one on the win list is this right here. I don't even think we even need to mention that, but this 2009 Touareg TDI has been such a big car for the channel. Now, I've always wanted one of these. One of the things that is hard as a small YouTuber is buying cars for YouTube, because honestly, I'm not making, I mean, I just started monetizing my videos, and even now, I mean, I end up making like $5 a day if it's a good day. So this was a car that I wanted. This is a car that I was always interested in, and I always wanted to kind of match this up against the V8. Now, I recently did a 6-month review, and we've done so many videos on this. I think I totaled them up. We've done 90 videos in total on the channel, and 23 of them are of this Touareg, and they do the best. Up until recently, our #1 video was when I bought this. I think we're getting close to like 9,000 views on that video. And if you look at the history of the channel, I think total views, close to half of the views on the entire channel are the videos for this car. So I want to thank everyone. It's a car that I love and enjoy, so it's really good. And stay tuned, because there's more content coming with this Touareg, and there's kind of a reason I'm standing in this gravel dirt pit here. Okay, and now is the fun part. Let's talk about all the fails of the channel. Now, surprisingly, I had to kind of think for some of these, but let's go through the list. Now, number 5. This one I don't even really want to mention, but number 5, I will have to say, is the very first video on this channel. So just like I feel like everybody, if you look back at some of my older videos, they're pretty cringy. It's hard for me to even look at them or watch them. I really try to avoid them, just because I don't know. I was new at this, obviously. I look very bored and not very excited. I do feel like, let me know what you think, but I do feel like I have gotten better with this. But the funny thing is that very first video kind of made it even a little bit more embarrassing, because for the longest time, it was my #1 video. It got more views than a lot of videos for the longest time. So that was always the first video, and if you went to my channel and looked at like most popular videos, it was at the top of the list. And here's the funny thing is, I think the video is like 15 minutes long. I didn't even really know how to edit or change, do a whole lot in iMovie, and I recorded the video, and wasn't even really sure how to kind of cut things and put them together, all that kind of stuff. So I just put all the clips I had together, and that was it. I didn't edit it. I didn't change anything. I didn't cut anything out. I put it all together and threw it up on YouTube, and that was it. So that's kind of an embarrassing video, and I mean, it started things, so I don't know how much of a fail that is, but number one is definitely that number one. And I'm not even going to link that one in the description. If you want to see that, you're gonna have to find it. Okay, number 4. Now this is more of a dealership thing, and I find this pretty fascinating or pretty interesting. So I, in the past, for the dealership, I've bought kind of a handful of just regular Jettas. A lot of them have been, some of them with the 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, and then others with the 2.5 5-cylinder engine. At the beginning of this year, we had I believe it was a 2011 Jetta SE, so I had the vinyl seats, and it was a little bit nicer. It only had 87,000 miles, and I got it for $2,600. I mean, that was kind of a steal. I really lucked out on that one. Here's the reason I don't buy those cars anymore, and I tend to buy the diesels, is that car, probably, I showed that car to more people than any other car I've had. So many people came and wanted to test drive and look at that car. People would come look at the car, and because I think it was kind of a generic, a lot of people are looking at just a good car to get into. Most of the people that came to look would say, okay, yeah, we like the car. Actually, we really like the car, but we want to look at some other things as well. We want to look at a Accord, or we want to look at a Civic, or one person talked about a Chevy Cruze. And so I got a lot of people who were just, looking and kind of checking off the list of all of the economical cars they could kind of buy and get into. So I showed that car to so many people. When I sold it, I made $2,600. I mean, it was a good deal, and the miles were low, so it was a very good car. But like I said, I just showed it to so many people. And number three, you guys will know. Number 3 is the Touareg V8, the $1,800 Touareg V8. Now, for YouTube, this definitely would not be considered a fail, because we got a lot of traffic from those videos. Me flying out to Seattle, picking up the car, that's first start. I put that clip in so many videos. That was all good stuff for YouTube and for views and subscribers. It definitely helped us get to 1,000 subscribers, but I'm not making any money here, so it's all just costing me money. So basically, the reason I got that car is because I sold the GTI, and I always like to have just kind of a whatever car on the side that I can drive around. And I sold that car for $2,500, the GTI, and I thought, well, let me buy a Touareg. People love watching Touaregs. I'd love to get another V8 Touareg because I sold the one I had. So I found one with fully loaded, looked really great, but then unfortunately, like we saw, we've kind of run into problems with that. So number 1 and number 2 have not been featured on the channel either. Probably because of how the outcome was, but they did not make it in any videos. Well, they did. So they both have made it in a video, but I didn't really talk about them. So number 2 is actually a Mini Cooper. It was a 2007 blue Mini Cooper. It only had 95,000 miles. The condition report, all it said was that it had an oil leak. Now this is problem with the auction and those condition reports. I picked up the car and it ran just fine. It had quite a bit of noise with the engine, and I drove it out. Parked it. I bought it for like $1,800, so pretty cheap. Definitely below the value. The value on that one at the auction is probably like $2,500. So I picked it up, turned it off, went to go load it on the trailer, put it on the trailer. And when I noticed it on the trailer, it was just pouring with like oil. It was oil and come to find out coolant. It was pretty thin. I knew it was a mixture of something, but it was leaking a ton. So so then I was like, oh man, this isn't gonna be good. And as one of the freeze plugs in the engine block had come out, that is why it was just leaking so much. I think it was like a $2,000 bill. So then it was like, oh man, we're right at the value of this thing. So as long as that's it, then we should at least be able to sell it and be good. Well, unfortunately, I drove it around. It still had quite a bit of noise while it was running, but I thought it was like a pulley or something. I drove for 2 days. On the second day, I went to get on the freeway and I kind of put my foot into it, put my foot down to like get up to speed, and I heard kind of a rattle. It sounded like something like broke loose and kind of fell underneath the car, and then from there the car wouldn't start. I spent $2,000 for a car to run for 2 days. It broke, and now it's got a dead engine. And honestly, it's still sitting over at the mechanic shop. It's been sitting there for like 6 months. I gotta fix it and figure out what to do. Okay, so number one, this is a good one. So in the win list, we had the Routan, the story of the Routan. It was great. I made a lot of money. So I said, hey, why don't I buy another one of these, see if I can do just as well. Even if I don't make as much, I still feel like I can do decent. So I bought an even better Routan. Same year, it was like a 2010. It was black with gray seats, I want to say. And it was in better shape. It looked great. I bought it and brought it home. I put it on the trailer. I didn't really drive it at the auction, but then when I got it home, I started driving around town and realized it did not shift out of first gear. Oh, okay, I gotta fix this thing. Now, the frustrating thing is it's not a Volkswagen, it's a Dodge, but everyone thinks it's a Volkswagen because it says it's a Volkswagen, but underneath it's a Dodge. So I took it to my Volkswagen mechanic and they said, oh, we don't even work on these. You'll have to take it down the street to the transmission shop. So I said, okay, no problem. I took it there. They took a look at it and said, oh, it looks like the filter just came loose. We dropped the pan, the filter came loose, so we put basically did a service on it, and now it's shifting fine. I was like, okay, awesome. 200 bucks later, look, if we can fix this for 200 bucks, I'm still looking pretty good. So then picked it up, literally drove it down the street. After driving it a little bit, it would stay in first gear. So that was a problem. I took it back there and said, hey, it's not working. They went to look at it, and then it developed another problem. They thought it was the ignition originally, so they replaced that. It didn't do anything. They couldn't figure it out, so they sent it over to the Dodge dealership. The Dodge dealership was able to diagnose it, and they fixed it. That ended up costing me like $1,300 or something to do all that. Oh, it was such a mess. And then the dumbest thing about it was I got the van back and it was still the same problem. So the problem with the ignition came up, and it had nothing to do with the transmission. Had nothing to do with the transmission. So when I got the van back, it was like, okay, yeah, the van's back. Now you can start it. Now you can drive it around again. But the transmission was still having a problem. So then it was like, what do I do? Do I take this back and try and get the transmission fixed? Also, I realized after just driving it around town in first gear that the coolant tank would start bubbling up. So I'm pretty sure the head gasket was on its way out as well. So it was just like, oh man, I don't want to deal with this. I sent it back to the auction, and I think I lost like $2,000 on that van. So so the lame thing is that first van, I always talk about winning big on that Routan, but then I bought a second Routan and pretty much lost most of what I made. So between those two vans, I ended up making like 600 bucks instead of 2,600 bucks. But that is definitely the #1 fail, and that's some insider info. I've never talked about that second van really, besides maybe 1 or 2 videos, but you'd have to kind of find that. Okay guys, that's it. That is the list, the top 5 wins and top 5 fails of 2019. I figured I'd put this out before 2020 hits. I've got some videos in the works and some plans for 2020. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you think there's more to the win or fail list. But otherwise, thanks guys. Thanks for watching.